Why did he choose me? That's the question that never left my mind after that morning. Every day for months, I saw him there, an old man in a broken wheelchair, dirty clothes, and eyes full of pain. The street kids laughed at him. People ignored him like he was invisible. But I never did. I always gave him some of the food I sold, even if it was my last bite. I didn't know his story, but I knew he was lonely and hurting. Then, one morning, everything changed. That man looked at me with a strange smile, and I knew something was different. Something big was about to happen. I remember that day clearly. The sun was warm, but the air felt heavy, like a secret was hiding in the shadows. I served my regular customers, but my mind kept drifting to the man I called Papa J. He wasn't just a beggar to me. He was a soul I wanted to help, even if I had nothing to give. But when a sleek black car suddenly stopped beside my shop, and a well-dressed stranger stared hard at Papa J, I felt a chill run down my spine. Who was this man watching him so closely? And why did he look so familiar with my Papa J? When Papa J didn't show up the next morning, my heart sank. Not one person had seen him that day, not the vegetable seller, not the boys selling sachet water, not even the tricycle drivers. It was like he vanished into thin air. I sat by the empty spot where he always sat, hoping to hear the familiar creak of his wheelchair wheels, but silence stayed. Days passed. Customers noticed my sadness but didn't ask. I couldn't eat or smile. I felt like something terrible had happened to him, but no one could tell me what. The city around me moved on, but my world froze in those missing days. The fear grew inside me as I waited. Why would a man who needed help just disappear? Had someone taken him? Was he hurt? Every night, I held his last plate of food, wishing it could bring him back. The shadows outside my tiny room seemed darker, the cold breeze colder. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. I didn't know it then, but those missing days were just the start of a story I was about to live, one that would change everything I thought I knew. On the fourth day, a different man arrived at my shop. His clothes were clean, his shoes polished, and his face unreadable. Without greeting me, he handed over a brown envelope. "Read it," he said, "and don't tell anyone." Then, like a ghost, he disappeared into his black car. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a simple note: "Come to Green Hill Hotel by 4 p.m. Don't tell anyone." From a friend. I stared at the paper. A hotel? I'd never been to one before. Who was this friend? And why me? I locked my shop with shaking hands, a storm raging inside my head. My life was small and hard, but this mysterious note felt like a door opening into a world I'd never seen. As I climbed into a waiting tricycle, my heart pounded with fear and hope. Where would this strange invitation lead? I knew one thing: I had to go. Whatever was waiting for me at Green Hill Hotel, it was part of the secret behind Papa J's disappearance. Inside the hotel, a man in a black suit led me down long, shiny halls to a large door. When it opened, I froze. There he was, Papa J, but not as I'd known him. He wore a crisp white shirt with gold buttons, a shiny watch, and his wheelchair was clean and polished. His eyes were bright and kind, but he looked like a man who belonged to a different world. "Esther," he said softly, "my real name is Chief George. I am a billionaire." My heart pounded so loud I thought he would hear it. How could this broken beggar be rich? He explained why he hid his true self. That he wanted to find someone who would care for him without knowing his money, someone pure like me. Tears streamed down my face. I had fed him not for what he had, but because it felt right. Now, here I was, standing in a luxury hotel, hearing that he chose me to share his fortune because of my kindness. The world had flipped upside down. I barely recognized the life I was living anymore. The shock didn't end there. Chief George suddenly stood up from his wheelchair, his legs strong and steady. "I can walk," he said quietly, "but I wanted to see who would help me when I looked broken." I felt like I was dreaming. Why would anyone fake weakness like that? Because he wanted to know the truth about people's hearts. And I was the one who passed his test. My tears flowed freely now. This moment wasn't just about money, it was about something deeper: trust, kindness, and hope. Could my small acts really have such power? I looked around the luxurious room, overwhelmed. Chief George smiled kindly and said there was more to see. I followed him, not knowing what awaited, but feeling ready to face whatever came next. My life was about to change forever. The next stop was a magnificent building with a shining sign, Esther's Place, home of sweet meals. My name was on it. I didn't believe it. Was this real? Chief George handed me the keys. This was my restaurant, my dream, and my future. Inside, everything was perfect: polished floors, soft chairs, sparkling lights, and a big kitchen filled with the best tools. I was no longer the poor girl selling food on the street. I was someone who could help others on a much bigger scale. My heart swelled with gratitude and fear. How could I live up to this? That day, I felt both lost and found. Chief George had given me more than a business. He gave me a chance to change lives, just like mine had changed. But deep inside, I promised never to forget the road I had walked, the pain, and the small acts of kindness that led me here. From that day, Esther's Place became famous. People from all over came to eat, and I watched as my dream grew. I didn't cook anymore, professional chefs did. I sat in my office and signed papers I barely understood. My picture hung on the wall, and people greeted me with respect. But my heart stayed the same. I never forgot Papa J or the kindness that saved us both. My hands still shook when I thought about how small I was before this all started. Yet, despite the wealth and fame, I felt a strange emptiness sometimes. Was this really what I wanted? Or did I miss the simple days, feeding Papa J in the heat, feeling needed even when I had nothing? The truth was, I wanted to help more than just myself. And I knew that true kindness never stops, it moves forward. One morning, my manager told me the food truck was ready. Esther's Food Love, it said, painted on the side in bright letters. We started driving to the poorest parts of the city, handing out warm meals to people who had nothing. Children smiled with empty stomachs now full. Old men wiped tears from dusty faces. It was the hardest work I had ever done, but also the most rewarding. I walked among them, telling each person, "You are not forgotten." One worker asked me why I did this, now that I was rich. I smiled and touched my chest. "Kindness brought me here," I said softly, "so I must send kindness out again." In that moment, I knew the secret Chief George had shown me was true. No matter how far you rise, your heart must stay with the ones who need you the most. Weeks later, I received another letter, this one without a name or return address. It said, "Meet me where the city ends, at midnight." I was nervous but curious. Was it Chief George? Or someone else? I couldn't stop wondering if this mysterious invitation would reveal more secrets. The night was dark and quiet when I reached the place, a forgotten park on the edge of the city. There, a shadow stepped forward. It was the man from the red cap, the one who gave me the first letter. "You passed the test," he said calmly. "Chief George is not the only one watching. Your kindness is rare, and there are others who want to help you grow, but there are dangers too." My heart pounded. What dangers? What did he mean by others? Suddenly, the night felt colder and more uncertain than ever. I returned home feeling uneasy. Who were these others? And why was my kindness so important? The simple life I knew felt like it was slipping away. That night, I heard noises outside my window, whispers, footsteps. I locked the door and hid. Was someone watching me? Trying to scare me? I didn't know who to trust anymore. The world I thought was kind and simple was full of secrets and dangers. The next day, I told Chief George about the letter and the man. He nodded thoughtfully. "Esther, kindness shines a light, but some people fear light because it shows their darkness. You must be careful. Not everyone who smiles wants good for you." My stomach twisted. How could I protect myself and still keep giving? The line between friend and foe blurred. The real test had just begun. A week later, one of my closest workers vanished. No warning, no note, just gone. We searched everywhere. Then, a rival businessman called me. His voice was cold. Esther, stop what you're doing. You don't belong in this world. My blood froze. Who was behind this? I realized some people didn't want me to succeed. They wanted to crush the kindness that challenged their greed. Chief George stood by me, but even he seemed worried. You must be stronger than before, he said. They will come for you, but don't lose who you are. I felt alone, but I refused to be afraid. I had come too far, and my kindness was more than a test, it was my power. But I wondered, how far would I have to fight to keep it? In the darkest hour, a new ally appeared. A quiet woman named Amina showed up at the restaurant. She didn't talk much but worked harder than anyone else. One evening, she pulled me aside. I know who is behind the threats, she whispered. They are closer than you think. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. Could someone inside my circle be the enemy? Together, we started watching carefully, listening for secrets. I learned to trust my instincts, even when my heart ached. Amina's friendship became a light in the darkness, reminding me that kindness sometimes needs a shield. But the deeper we dug, the more complicated the story became. This was no ordinary battle, it was a war for hearts and souls. One night, I caught the betrayer, a man I had trusted. His greed was ugly behind his smile. When I confronted him, he laughed. You think your kindness will save you? This world runs on power and fear. I was angry and hurt, but I stood tall. No, I said firmly. Kindness is stronger. It changes people. It saved me, and it will save this city. With Amina's help, we exposed him. The truth spread, and many people who had turned away started coming back. The restaurant grew busier, and my food truck reached more hungry souls. But I knew this was just the beginning. The fight for kindness was never easy, but it was worth every tear and every battle. Chief George called me one day with a serious look. Esther, it's time for the final test. Will you continue to give even when it's hard? When the world turns its back? I took a deep breath. I thought about the man in the wheelchair, the small food I shared, and the lives touched since. Yes, I said quietly. I will. That night, a huge storm hit the city. Power went out. Roads flooded. Many people lost hope. But I gathered my team, loaded the food truck, and went out into the rain. We fed those who were cold and hungry, those forgotten by the storm and the city. In that darkness, I saw the light of kindness burning brighter than ever. I was no longer just Esther, I was a beacon. Years later, Esther's place became more than a restaurant. It was a symbol, a reminder that kindness changes lives. I still remember the crippled man in the old wheelchair, the one who showed me a better way. Chief George's gift wasn't just money. It was belief. And I believed in the power of a simple act of kindness. No matter how small you think you are, your heart can change the world. So, who was that man? He was the test I never saw coming. He was the friend who changed my life. And most of all, he was a reminder that kindness is never wasted. It finds you when you least expect it. Now, I ask you, what kindness will you give today? Because that might be the start of your story, too.